Hi, you're watching a very special recording of Agenda AWANI right here at the World Comic Forum in Davos 2017. I'm right here in the media village. This is the top floor. Interviews going on everywhere, CNN, CCTV, there's RT down there. But the better things about being here in the media village, I have access. And the access I have brings me to a lot of good and great speakers right here. And one of them is Alix Zwane. She's right here beside me. She's, not many people will be identified, offered, and selected by the World Economic Forum, whether it's their Schwab Foundation or the young global leaders or the global shapers. But Alix is one of them. But you're going to be jealous because she's worked in philanthropy before with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I should actually call her Dr. Alix because she has a PhD from Harvard. And these are brands that nations would really look up to. But I want to turn that a bit upside down because when I look at Alix from the first time, it's not about the name, it's not about the degree, it's about what you want to do. And please tell us more. It's very interesting. You have a South African family name, but you're an American. You now live in London. You are the CEO of a very interesting initiative of a global fund. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and the wonderful things that you do.
Oh, well, thank you. It's great to be here and great to be in Davos. I share your sentiment that you have access to amazing people here and really get to hear what people are talking about where the world is going. Myself, what brings me here is I run something called the Global Innovation Fund, which is a $200 million fund headquartered in London. And our job is to accelerate innovation for international development. So we have an open platform on our website, globalinnovation.fund, which you should check out. And anybody, any entrepreneur with a great idea can apply to us. And we give grants as small as $100,000 up to $15 million. Mm-hmm. And the key thing that we use to make decisions about what to fund is your innovation going to be potentially transformative? Is it backed by rigorous evidence of impact? And do you have the team that can really take this idea to scale? We haven't funded any proposals yet from Malaysia. But I will say, from my time at the Gates Foundation, I know that there's a lot of innovation coming out of your country. Mm-hmm. I'll give you one example. Okay. Malaysia is actually a world leader in innovative, sustainable sanitation. I know that doesn't sound very sexy, but it's incredibly important. Many cities in the developing world lack piped sanitation for all but maybe the very rich core of the city. And when you think about taking on the task of providing those pipes throughout a whole dense city like Jakarta or somewhere in the Philippines, that's a very daunting task. It's a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of land, a lot of water. Well, Malaysia figured out a while ago, we can actually provide high quality services to poor neighborhoods as well as wealthy ones by using trucks and truck sanitation and not wastewater, but fecal sludge management. And it's really a world leader. I know from the foundation that we have sent delegations from other countries to Malaysia to learn from that. And that's an example of the kind of innovation we're really seeking out to fund, whether partnering with governments or with social entrepreneurs. Happy to talk more about other things we're funding, but that's the kind of thing that brings me here and gets me excited to hear from all the interesting people that have assembled.
There's a lot of focus at the World Economic Forum and the word inclusiveness or inclusivity will be mentioned. There's also the word innovation, and the innovation is the middle name of what your institution is all about. But layered on top of that, of the inequalities of the world, sometimes people from my part of the world look at all this and feel, can we really make a dent on the status quo that we're having right now? So I'm going to reverse that polarity back to you.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable challenge for people to make in emerging markets and developing countries to the wealthy. Our fund is foreign aid money from rich country governments intended to help spur innovation and spur growth with smart investments. You know, one thing I heard today that really struck me was I was at a session with the, I think it was deputy finance minister for Turkey, and he said they think of inclusivity as a key part of economic growth. He mentioned, for example, that they are trying to get female labor force participation in Turkey up to 70% because they think that will generate a 20% increase in economic growth. I think that's just a very salient example of how inclusivity is not just a nice to have, it's part of how we're going to get towards solving some of the global inequity that we see. And similarly, I would say the same for innovation. We need innovation for growth and for inclusive growth in middle income countries as well as the least developed countries.
Sometimes people look at the word innovation and feel that it's easy if you're in the Silicon Valley. It's easy if you're part of Microsoft. It's easy if you're part of Google and Facebook, because it's like you have all the talents, you have all the funds that you can lay your hands on. But more and more, frugal innovation, for example, in India, well, last year, or from 2015 to 2016, 100 million new bank accounts were done because finally they used the analog phone to make financial transactions doable.
Yeah.
So would your fund be looking at those kind of innovation where it matters more to maybe the have-nots of the world? It's not so sexy, but it matters, and it matters deeply.
That's exactly right. So the kind of innovations we're looking for and that we want to fund are innovations that help people living under $5 a day. They don't need to help only those people, but they should provide tangible and real benefits to the poor. I'll give an example. We recently took an equity stake in a company called M-Clinica. They're headquartered in Singapore, but their markets are Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. And what they do is they work with pharmacies, and they make a deal with pharmacies basically in which customers sign up to get notifications from M-Clinica about, don't forget to take your pills, don't forget to go back to the pharmacy. And pharmacies get data given to them that says, okay, here's your inventory needs. Order these drugs because these customers are coming back. So the pharmacies pay for this service because it helps them keep customers and avoid stockouts.
Yes.
Maybe that's not sexy, but it can provide real benefits if you think about people adhering to taking tuberculosis drugs or drugs for diabetes, say, and people can make money from it. Those are really exciting opportunities that don't come out of Silicon Valley, and I think there's many, many more of those, especially in the region of Southeast Asia. It's one of our areas of focus because we think that there's lots of innovation waiting to be tapped and money to be made.
You see, surprise, surprise. I would never thought that Alex would be talking more about Southeast Asia than I am talking about Southeast Asia.
We can talk about other places too.
But we have to go to the first commercial break. But once we are back, I want to look at that aspect of World Economic Forum that people don't really see. The global shapers, the young leaders.
Okay.
And how does this network empower us? Because Malaysia currently, we are embarking on a new vision. We're putting it up at 2050, and right now, the government is setting up machineries to get people's views into it. But when I look at what's happening at World Economic Forum, it's not just the big leaders in Congress, but it's this other networking and meeting of minds that to me is very interesting. So I'm going to tap into your wisdom because you've been inside it. And this will give us a better insight of what to look at. That will be right after this short break. Whether it's philanthropy or, trying to fund the next great idea that will help the majority of the world, by the world I mean the world that has been not so included in the thick of things of wealth creation, equity and everything else. But Alex knows more about Southeast Asia, so I'm going to change the game a bit. So I want to look at how, as we move on, it's easy to say that I give you this much amount of money and I want to see results. But I've been meeting technopreneurs from my own country, Southeast Asia, that's trying to stay away from VCs, as they call it, venture capitalists, because they want to retain control. And I think the business world, the emotional equation and the mind cannot be divorced when we talk about the next level innovation that we need to have, even though we might not be realizing it now. Yesterday, Al Gore was telling us how the ice is melting in the Arctic, and that's going to impact the tropics more than anywhere else in the world. So how do you look at that? Because you've been in the philanthropy side of things, you're now looking at growing equity sustainably through funding, and you don't want the 200 million to deplete and without returns, and you cannot help the next batch of for example, entrepreneurs. So from all these experiences that you have, how do you look at the new world order in that sense? Because World Economic Forum asks us to look at the fact that the growth model or whatever model that we have for the global world, they are arcane now.
I guess I'd have a couple of thoughts on that one. I think a good venture capitalist goes with an entrepreneur on their journey and provides support and is a sounding board and a counselor and a coach and a mentor and a shoulder to cry on, and sometimes, yes, stiffens your spine. But if you find the right partner to work with, you don't need to have a stark trade-off between control and access to finances. I mean, look, if you, at a certain point, unless you're extremely lucky and come from a wealthy family yourself, you're going to need to tap into other sources of capital. But my advice to you, if you're in that situation, would be to say it needs to feel like a mutual fit. It's a two-way street. And indeed, if you are running a nonprofit and you are talking to philanthropists about supporting you, I would give you the exact same advice. Like, think of it exactly the same way, that the philanthropist is making an investment in you and your vision and should be along for the ride with you. I know historically we've sometimes emphasized more the power imbalance between an NGO and a philanthropy, but now I think responsible, high-quality philanthropy is looking more and more like a partnership. And again, you should find someone to work with who shares your vision and wants to support you, not control or micromanage the work that you're doing.
That's why I want to tap into your experience, networking with the young leaders that have been selected by WEF. Because every time I speak to any of them, it doesn't matter where it comes from for them, the funding or the process. They have this goal and they work hard and they work creatively and innovatively to get to that goal.
Well, it is an amazing community. I think there's no doubt. It's one of the things that I think the World Economic Forum has been quite foresighted about. I mean, think of it this way. We are entering into what some people are calling the youth bulge, right? And many countries are thinking about the people who are young today, when they are at their productive age, in their 30s and 40s. If they can be highly productive, we could make huge leaps in economic growth and development. So we got to invest in those people when they're young now if we want to deliver on that. These global shapers, the young global leaders, these are the kind of people who can be part of that, especially those from developing countries. I'd also say this, you need to have the voices of the youth at a place like the World Economic Forum, where the future of the world is being talked about. It's those people, younger than me, younger than you, who are going to have to live in the world that we're making. Just think about in the country I live in now, in the UK, when the Brexit vote happened, there was a big controversy about did the young people have enough of a say in what Brexit was going to mean for the future of the UK. Then there are analogous examples in other countries, and I don't know about Malaysia right now, but I guarantee you something's on the political agenda that's going to affect young people. We need a way to hear their voices if they can't actually vote. And having that youth energy here at the World Economic Forum, I think, is very important.
Can you share with us some examples? And because you've been in philanthropy, you've now with Global Innovation Fund, you'll be meeting such powerful individuals or group of people who, if you look at them visually, might not, even astound you, but the moment you hear the ideas and what they have done, that's just amazing. Can you share one or two with us?
Oh my goodness. I think some of the people who impress me the most are not some of the biggest names.
Yeah.
I think there are folks who have been very quietly working to help us use evidence to make decisions about economic development and really push the agenda on that front. One name in that space is a woman named Esther Duflo.
Okay.
She happens to be on the board of Global Innovation Fund. She was a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader. And she has really been part of pushing us all who work in developing countries and who work on foreign aid and philanthropy to say, use hard data and evidence to make decisions. Soft heart, hard head. And that's really something we've taken on board at Global Innovation Fund, and that I think I'd love to see more of as we think about how to, when we have tight budgets, get the most value for money that we can.
Okay, cool. I'm going for the last break, but once we're back, we want to know more about you. We've left the 20th century, but some mindset from there are still prevailing because many parents still want their children to go to Harvard, especially from Southeast Asia. Like, get an A, go to Harvard or Cambridge or Oxford, get a doctorate, You've done all that, but here you are. Maybe not a typical path for somebody who've taken that path, maybe a doctorate in public policy, for example. So let us hear about your story after this short break, because I'm sure it's going to be very interesting indeed. I'm still here with Alex, or Dr. Alex. This is the Media Village, second floor. And I have access to great people like this. I now want to have greater access from your knowledge into how did you come to where you are, because we've got to break mindsets to have innovation. And part of the problem in Malaysia, we keep saying that it's not about innovation, it's the fact that we are afraid to make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, how do you come up with new solutions or break the status quo? But for you, if I read about you, every step of the way is like breaking the path.
Well, that's really nice of you to say. And I've been, whatever small amount of success I have had, I've been helped by a lot of people along the way. I guess a couple of things I maybe think I've learned. And I think the first of them is, don't be afraid to try different things. I was fortunate to get a PhD from Harvard, and I went, after I did that, to University of California. And I was trying pretty hard to be a professor. And frankly, I was pretty bad at it. And partly because my heart wasn't totally in it. And I thought to myself, I'd rather be out in the messy real world, maybe make some trade-offs in terms of the rigor of your analysis, but you really get to be part of the conversation about and impact. And so I took the leap of leaving, and that was scary for me. Nobody knows what a PhD really gets for you. I had to explain what I could do. But I'm really glad I did that. So I took that leap that time, and I'm really glad I did. Another time I took a leap was, I was working at the Gates Foundation, as you mentioned, which is an amazing institution, and to have the opportunity to be part of informing and realizing the vision of Bill and Melinda Gates is one of the things that I'll forever be grateful for. But I left the Gates Foundation to go be in part of a startup and be employee number one at a little NGO. And that was scary too. No more people taking your calls all the time, no more people being interested in who you are just because of the name on your business card. But I'm really glad I did that too, because I really believed in the mission of that NGO, and I thought that the world needed that. So taking some smart risks is something I really endorse. And I agree with what you said. You have to be a little bit willing to fail. If you're striving for excellence, that means you might fail. If you're trying to get everything perfect, you're not by definition striving for excellence. So finding that right balance and checking yourself along the way, I think that's part of how you can really realize interesting and great things. Now, as for Harvard, study hard and stay in school. That's my main message. I don't want any parents tracking me down on that one.
But I'll put another one on your plate. In Malaysia, in our public universities at least, 60 to 70% of the students are females. That has been going on for more than 10 years. Is it harder being a woman to take the path that you have taken? Because we're talking about breaking the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
We have those numbers, but they're not there. Less than 30% of CEOs or company board of directors members are female in our company.
Yeah. Oh, I think it is harder. I think it is hard. It's hard in the US, and it's hard in the UK, and it's hard in Malaysia, and in each place it's different. But I think all of us have the responsibility to check ourselves for unconscious bias. Are you reacting differently to someone saying something because it's a woman making that point? Do we accidentally shut out women's voices in conversations? Do we set up speaking panels and have suddenly got 6 men sitting on stage to opine upon a topic, suggesting that there's no woman around who would be who would have something valuable to say? It's small things like that in terms of that unconscious bias, I think we can all check ourselves on. And for women out there who are striving, one of the things Sheryl Sandberg says in her book, it's one of the most important decisions that you can make about your career is the man who you marry. And I think that's partly what that really means is everybody needs a support system, and if you have people who support you on the professional journey you're trying to go on, you're that much more likely to succeed.
But how has that worked for you, what Sheryl said?
No, I think it is. I agree with that. I myself was fortunate enough to marry somebody who has been incredibly supportive of my journey and my work, and as has the rest of my family. So before she even gave it, I'd followed Ms. Sandberg's advice.
I cannot let you go before asking you this last point that I wanted to make, which is people sometimes keep looking at innovation just for the sake of innovation. Wanting to be the next Facebook or Google. How important is heart in the matter of innovation?
Yeah. I think heart's really important in everything we do. But yes, innovation is not just new widgets. We can also innovate in new ways of making policy decisions and making government policy and regulation decisions, behavior change. A core insight and saying, I only need one miracle, and this might be really transformative. That's what innovation is. And so, there's a lot of heart to that.
I really wish I could have another half an hour with you, but that's all the time we have.
This has been so fun. Thank you.
But you do believe that Malaysia and Malaysians can be innovative.
Absolutely. I'll see you in KL in 2017.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alix Zwane, for making time to be on Agenda AWANI. This has been a very special recording of Agenda AWANI right here at the Media Village in Davos. And I would like to thank World Economic Forum for giving us the accreditation for the first time to be in here, to have access to such wonderful people. I personally will be hounding the young global leaders network, the global shapers, and also the social enterprise movement of World Economic Forum. That's all we have for now. Good night and goodbye.